Hello, so in this video I'm basically going to show you guys just what I've done so far to the Prelude that I own, which is right over here. It's the 4th generation Prelude from 93, I think. And yeah, I've had this car for about almost a year now. And obviously because like it's an older car, so I've had to do a lot of work to it in order to keep it like on the road and make sure it's still roadworthy. So I'm just gonna take you guys through everything I've had to do so far, and yeah, let's get started. So um, I'm just gonna start with just other things besides the actual engine bay. So any like brake work I've done or lights or anything like that. So I'm just gonna start with the brakes. So the first thing I did, or actually one of the things I did, I should say, was I've actually had to replace two calipers on this car because one of them was leaking brake fluid, and the other one was, I think the other one had seized up or something like that. So this one right here is the one that seized up. So basically the caliper wasn't squeezing and releasing the rotor properly anymore, so I had to replace that because it was making like a loud noise and it was basically scratching up the rotor, so I had to replace that before it damaged the rotor beyond repair. And then the other caliper I replaced was over here on the front passenger wheel. This one, I took this car to a dealership, a Honda dealer, and they told me that, and they even showed me a video. Basically, the actual brake fluid was leaking. Basically, it wasn't lubricating the caliper right. Instead, it was just leaking down onto the wheel. So they had to basically replace that in order to fix that leak. So that's the story with that caliper. And then the other thing I did was I also did the rear pads in the back here, because basically they were worn down, so I had to replace those. I haven't done the front pads yet. I'm not sure when I'm gonna do those, but they're probably gonna be within like a year or two maybe, because like I have no idea when the front pads were last replaced, because when I bought this car, um, I basically had a very like foggy maintenance history when I bought this car, so I have no idea when these front pads were replaced right here. But yeah, so basically that's all that. And now I'm gonna show you guys everything I had to do under the hood here, because that's obviously where most of the work has to be done on an old car like this. So I'm gonna open it up. It's in here somewhere. There it is. Okay. So I'm just gonna set you guys on the seat while I open the hood up. Okay. Coming up to the hood now. So yeah, here's where most of the work was done. So as you can see, I haven't actually done any mods to it, unlike a lot of other people with their Preludes. A lot of people tend to change a lot of stuff in here, like the intake or even the actual motor. They literally swap the motor with the VTEC motor, but I don't have the VTEC motor. And they just do other stuff to it, but I haven't really done any of that. I've just kind of kept this all stock, or as stock as I can make it, basically. Because what ends up happening is whenever like a part has to be replaced on this car, the actual genuine part is like out of circulation now. It's not even being manufactured anymore. So I have to go with aftermarket options. So that's kind of what I had to do for a couple of the parts in here. For instance, the valve cover gasket up here, over by the engine cover, that one was a discontinued part, so I just went with an aftermarket gasket. So that's what I did for the valve cover gasket there, which was actually one of the first things I did in terms of repairs. And then another big thing I did actually was the battery. right over here. I got this battery from Costco. And actually the story with this was that it is actually my second battery from Costco, and the reason why it's my second battery is because the first one apparently was defective and the car was having trouble starting because it wasn't holding the charge very well. So I went on like that for about several months before I realized that it was defective and the car wasn't starting very easily. So I basically had to I had to take the battery back out, bring it back to Costco, and then they gave me a replacement under warranty. So that's how I ended up with this second battery right over here. And then the other thing I did was the distributor. I had to replace the distributor right here because the one I had on here, and this happened a couple months ago, but the one I had on here actually went bad as I was driving down the road. I was driving down the road, and on the dash, I noticed the orange check engine light come on. So I brought it in, and they said, "Oh, well, it looks like your distributor is bad, and it wasn't distributing the sparks properly, and the engine was not operating right." So I had to replace the distributor. And actually, like on that same visit, they started the car up and they said, well, I mean, it seems to be having trouble idling. Like whenever it idles, the RPMs kind of slowly dip down to almost zero, which would have, like, that kind of stuff kills the engine. So basically, after a lot of investigation, they finally got up to so they had all this taken apart. They took this cover off in order to access the cams under there. And what the tech noticed was that, and he was even fingering it with his finger on video, but over here where you can't see it now, but under that cover, there's basically these two cam wheels that are all connected with a timing belt, and on each wheel there's a bolt. So on one of those wheels there was actually a loose bolt, which apparently was loose the whole time the cam was actually rotating, and because of that, the threading that basically secured the bolt to the actual cam was actually stripped. So because of that, they basically had to take the cam out, and a machine shop had to essentially bore out a slightly wider hole in order to make new threading, and then they used a thicker bolt to just put the bolt in and then just put it all back together basically. So now so now that's all fixed. So that was definitely one of the more expensive jobs because, you know, they had to take the whole engine apart and get all that and just like sort that all out. So that was one of the major things I did. And then the other thing I did a timing belt and the water pump, which are down there behind the cover. So and as well as the other belts. I think I also did this belt as well. So basically I did that because again, I bought this car with a very foggy maintenance history, so I had no idea when the timing belt was last done. So I figured, might as well replace that because it's an interference engine, and when the belt snaps, I don't want like bent valves and damaged cylinders or pistons. So I figured I might as well take care of that at least. So and that kind of brings us up to the front here. So I pretty much had to do all kinds of work back there, and now that we're at the front, here's another major thing I did. So when I bought this car, this whole front bumper reinforcement, including the nostrils, it was all like down by a couple inches. And the reason why that is because this car was actually in an accident before I bought it, and it was a front-end collision. So basically when the car, and you can even see the impact point right there on the frame, you can see how it kind of dents in right there. But basically when it collided with the car in front of it, whatever it collided with, it basically went through the hood, damaged this part of the frame, and then simultaneously it also made this whole bumper reinforcement bar drop down by like 2 inches, which was not good. And it obviously went through the hood because it had to have gone through the hood in order to reach the frame there. So I believe the previous owner changed the hood, so like he replaced the hood, but that's about all he did. So like he didn't actually do anything else. He just kind of replaced the hood and kind of just made the bumper just as is. He didn't really do anything with the bumper. So a couple weeks ago, I took it to a body shop, and I had the guy basically, he basically pulled that bumper reinforcement bar down there like up in order to get it like roughly back to where it was before the accident. And it's not perfect because I mean I didn't have him order any new parts because I wanted to keep the job as cheap as possible. Like I knew new parts were gonna make the job more expensive, so I figured just not have him order any new parts and just try to put it back together as it was. And for dealing with what he had, I mean, I'd say he did a pretty good job because, as you can see, everything looks fairly flush. I mean, it's not like how it was when I left the factory where everything was like perfectly flush. It has still some imperfections here and there, like there's a little slight misalignment there, and there's also some slight misalignment over here. But for the most part, though, he did a pretty good job in trying to get it all back together after he pulled the bar up. And as you can see here, he managed to secure it down pretty tightly, in addition to the other bolts that are behind there somewhere. And this right here, he actually snapped. So this isn't really held on anymore, but I mean it's still, the rigidity of this structure kind of keeps this together, so I'm not too worried about that. But yeah, but that's what he did basically. He pulled the bar up and he was able to get a pretty nice approximation to how it looked before it actually was in an accident. So because now when you look at it like this, it actually looks it looks pretty decent. I mean, it's not perfect, but I mean, it looks pretty decent. So, yeah, so that's that basically. And that's pretty much all I've done of the car so far. I haven't really done anything too crazy besides that cam job that I did where they had to take the motor apart to access the cams and drill one of them out. But besides that, I really haven't done much else to it. So far, it's this car has the 219,000 miles on it, so it's almost at 220 basically. So it's definitely getting up there in mileage. And honestly, I plan on keeping this until the motor dies basically. I mean, I don't plan on selling it anytime soon, but if I did sell it, it'd probably be when I absolutely like cannot have the car anymore. So yeah, guys, so that's basically my Prelude so far in the state it's in. So hope you guys enjoyed that video, and I will see you whenever I post again. Have a nice day.